Let me ask you something. What if everything you thought you knew about yourself suddenly shattered? What if one day the world you've been living in no longer made sense, and the person you've been no longer felt like you? That's what happens in your first spiritual awakening. It's not just a moment of clarity or an inspiring thought, it's a complete shift in who you are, how you see the world, and what reality even means. For those of you who feel like life has been nudging you towards something deeper, something more meaningful, you're not imagining it. The first spiritual awakening is a calling not from someone or something outside of you, but from the part of you that has always been infinite, waiting to be remembered. And while this experience is profoundly beautiful, it's also deeply unsettling. Because awakening isn't about finding something new, it's about losing everything you thought was true, so you can finally see what's real.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lessons.
The first thing that happens in a spiritual awakening is disconnection. It's as if someone flips a switch, and suddenly, the things that used to excite you, the routines that used to feel comfortable, the people you used to resonate with, they all feel distant, almost foreign. You start asking questions you've never dared to ask. Who am I? Really, why am I here? What's the point of all this? These aren't casual questions, they're existential. They shake the foundation of everything you've been taught to believe. And here's the hard part: there are no easy answers. At first, awakening feels like being lost in a forest with no map, no compass, and no way back to the life you've always known. But what if being lost isn't the problem? What if it's the first step toward finding the truth? Because the truth is, the map you were following before wasn't leading you anywhere real. It was just keeping you safe, keeping you small. Let's talk about the body. During your first spiritual awakening, something strange happens. Your physical body starts to react to the shift in your energy. You might feel waves of heat or cold, tingling sensations, or even a pressure in your chest or forehead. Some people call this the activation of your energy centers, your chakras. But whatever you call it, it's undeniable. Your body is waking up just like your mind is. The energy that's always been inside you, but dormant, starts to move. And it's not always comfortable. You might feel exhausted for no reason. Or you might have bursts of energy that seem to come out of nowhere. Sleep can become unpredictable. Either you're waking up at strange hours, or you're having intense, vivid dreams that feel more real than reality. This isn't a coincidence. Your body is recalibrating, trying to adjust to the higher frequencies you're stepping into. And with that recalibration comes discomfort. But discomfort isn't the enemy. It's the signal that something powerful is happening. And then there's the mind. During your first awakening, your mind becomes your biggest obstacle and your greatest teacher. You start to notice thoughts you've never questioned before, thoughts about who you are, what you're capable of, and what's possible for your life. These thoughts might be loud, relentless, and often negative. You're not enough, this is too much, why can't you just be normal? But here's the thing, these thoughts aren't you. They're the programming of the life you're leaving behind. In awakening, you begin to see that your mind is like a computer. It's been running on old software, outdated beliefs, and fears that aren't even yours. And as those programs start to break down, the mind fights back. It clings to what's familiar, even if it's painful. But this resistance is part of the process. Because every time your mind tells you you can't do this and you choose to keep going anyway, you weaken the illusion. You step closer to the truth. And speaking of truth, let's talk about reality. During your first spiritual awakening, reality itself begins to shift. You might notice synchronicities, those strange coincidences that feel too perfect to ignore. Numbers might start appearing repeatedly, like 1111 or 222. You might think of someone and then hear from them moments later. Or you might have moments where time feels different, slower, faster, or almost non-existent. These aren't random. They're signs that you're beginning to see beyond the illusion of the physical world. And with this new perception comes a deeper understanding of connection. You start to feel the oneness of everything, the way nature moves in harmony, the way people are mirrors reflecting each other's energy, the way the universe seems to be alive and aware. This isn't something you can explain logically. It's something you feel in your bones. It's the kind of knowing that doesn't come from the mind but from the soul. But here's where it gets tricky. With all this new awareness comes a sense of isolation. You begin to see the world differently, and because of that, you might feel like you no longer fit in. The conversations you used to enjoy feel shallow. The goals you used to chase feel meaningless. The people you used to connect with feel distant. This isn't because you're better than anyone else, it's because you're changing, and not everyone will change with you. This is one of the hardest parts of awakening: letting go. Letting go of relationships, habits, and identities that no longer align with who you're becoming. But letting go doesn't mean losing. It means creating space. Space for the people, experiences, and truths that are meant for the new version of you. And speaking of the new you, let's talk about purpose. During your first spiritual awakening, purpose becomes a central theme. It's no longer enough to simply exist, to go through the motions of life. You start craving something deeper, something real. You might feel called to create, to heal, to teach, to serve. But this calling isn't always clear at first. It might come as a whisper, a feeling, or an idea that won't leave you alone. And as you follow it, step by step, it begins to reveal itself. But let me ask you something. What if your purpose isn't something you find, but something you uncover? What if it's not out there, waiting for you, but already inside you, waiting to be remembered? Because awakening isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you've always been. And that brings us to the heart of it all: love. Not the kind of love the world has taught you about, the conditional love that depends on what you do, how you look, or who you're with. This is a love that doesn't come from outside of you. It comes from within. It's the love that's always been there, buried beneath the fear, the pain, and the illusion. And as you awaken, that love begins to rise, not just for others, but for yourself, because that's what awakening really is: a return to yourself. The self that isn't defined by your job, your achievements, or your mistakes. The self that isn't bound by time, space, or circumstance. The infinite self that's always been there, waiting for you to remember. When your first spiritual awakening begins, it doesn't announce itself with clarity or peace. It arrives like a storm. It shakes the ground beneath you, rips apart everything you thought was permanent, and leaves you standing in the rubble of your old self, unsure of what's real. And that's the point. Awakening isn't meant to be comfortable. It's meant to wake you up, and waking up from a lifetime of illusion is rarely gentle. The chaos you feel in those moments is not a mistake. It's not a punishment. It's a clearing. The old structures, the beliefs, the expectations, the attachments, they can't come with you into this new state of awareness. They have to crumble, and that process can feel like losing yourself. But what if you're not losing yourself? What if you're losing everything that isn't you? One of the first things you'll notice is the pull between two realities. On one side, there's the life you've been living, the routines, the roles, the familiar patterns. On the other side, there's this new awareness, this deeper understanding of who you are and what life is. And you're caught in the middle, trying to reconcile the two. This is the hardest part for most people. You might feel like you're being torn in two: one part of you clinging to the old, and another part of you longing for the new. And in that tension, there's confusion. Why does this feel so hard? Why can't I just move forward? But the truth is, you can't move forward until you release what's holding you back. And that's where the real work begins. Let's talk about the people in your life. During your awakening, you'll notice that some relationships start to feel strained. It's not because you don't care about these people. It's because your energy is shifting, and not everyone will resonate with the version of you that's emerging. This can feel isolating, even heartbreaking. You might wonder why the people you love don't understand what you're going through, why they can't see what you see. But here's the thing, awakening is a deeply personal experience. It's not something you can explain or convince others to understand, and it's not their job to meet you where you are. Their path is their own, just as yours is yours. The question is, will you hold yourself back to keep them comfortable, or will you honor where you're being called to go? And this isn't just about relationships. It's about every part of your life. The job you've been working, the habits you've been maintaining, the dreams you've been chasing, they all come under scrutiny. You start to see how much of your life has been built on autopilot, shaped by expectations that never truly belong to you. And in that realization, there's a choice: keep playing the role you've been given, or step into the truth of who you are. But stepping into the truth isn't as simple as deciding to change. The mind will resist. It will question, doubt, and sabotage. It will tell you that you're being selfish, reckless, or unrealistic. It will cling to the fear of the unknown, because the mind thrives on control, and awakening is the ultimate surrender. So how do you navigate this chaos without losing yourself? The first step is to stop fighting it. The more you resist the process, the harder it becomes. Awakening isn't something you can control or rush through. It's a natural unfolding, like a flower blooming. You can't force it open, but you can create the conditions for it to flourish. One of the most powerful tools you have during this time is awareness. Not just awareness of what's happening around you, but awareness of what's happening within you. Pay attention to the thoughts that arise, the emotions that surface, the patterns that repeat. These aren't random, they're the parts of you that are asking to be seen, healed, and released. For example, you might notice a recurring feeling of fear or unworthiness. Instead of pushing it away or trying to fix it, ask where it's coming from. Not as a mental exercise, but as a deep listening. What part of you still believes you're not enough? What story have you been carrying that no longer serves you? This isn't about judgment, it's about compassion. Every fear, every wound, every limitation is an opportunity to return to yourself. And here's something most people don't talk about during your awakening. You'll likely feel a deep sense of grief, not just for the people or things you're letting go of, but for the version of yourself you're leaving behind. The person you were before awakening wasn't false, they were just limited by what they knew at the time. And letting go of that version of yourself is like saying goodbye to an old friend. But grief isn't the end of the story. What comes after grief is rebirth. And rebirth doesn't mean becoming someone new. It means remembering who you've always been beneath the layers of conditioning and fear. It means stepping into the wholeness of your being, not as an idea or a concept, but as a lived experience. Let's talk about one of the most confusing aspects of awakening: the highs and lows. One moment you feel deeply connected to everything, filled with love, peace, and clarity. The next you're overwhelmed by doubt, fear, or frustration. This roller coaster is normal. Awakening isn't a straight line, it's a spiral. Each high takes you deeper into awareness, and each low brings up the parts of you that still need healing. The key is to stop clinging to the highs or fearing the lows. Both are part of the process, and neither defines you. The highs remind you of what's possible, and the lows show you what's still holding you back. Together, they guide you toward balance, toward integration. And integration is the goal. Awakening isn't about escaping the human experience. It's about fully embodying it with the awareness of your infinite nature. It's about being both the wave and the ocean, the individual and the whole. But this isn't something that happens overnight. Awakening is a lifelong process. There will always be more to learn, more to release, more to remember. The difference is, once you've awakened, you can no longer go back to sleep. You can no longer live in ignorance of who you are and what you're capable of. So what does it mean to live as an awakened being in a world that's still asleep? It means being a light in the darkness, not by trying to change others, but by being fully yourself. It means walking the path with humility, knowing that awakening doesn't make you better than anyone else, it just makes you more aware. And it means embracing the paradox of life that you are both infinite and finite, both human and divine, both the dreamer and the dream. The chaos of awakening isn't something to fear. It's the breaking of the illusion, the dismantling of everything that's kept you from seeing clearly. And on the other side of that chaos is freedom, not the kind of freedom that comes from escaping reality, but the kind that comes from fully embracing it. The question isn't whether you'll survive the chaos. You will. The question is, will you allow it to transform you? Will you let it strip away everything that isn't real so you can finally see who you are? Once the dust settles, something shifts within you. It's not loud or dramatic, more like a quiet certainty that wasn't there before. The chaos of your awakening has burned away everything false, and what's left is something real, something unshakable. You've stepped into a space where you no longer feel like you're at the mercy of life. Instead, you begin to sense that life moves through you, that you're not just living in the world, you're creating it. But stepping into this awakened state isn't the end of the process. In many ways, it's the beginning. Awakening doesn't mean you've solved all your problems or transcended the human experience. It means you've remembered the truth of who you are. And that truth changes everything. One of the first things you notice is how deeply connected you feel to yourself, to others, to the world around you. It's not something you have to force. It's as if the walls that used to separate you from everything have dissolved. You no longer feel like a separate, isolated being. You feel like a part of something infinitely larger, like a single thread in a vast, interconnected web. This connection changes how you move through life. You begin to notice the subtle ways the universe communicates with you. A song on the radio plays exactly when you need to hear it. A stranger says something that feels like it was meant just for you. A challenge arises, but it leads to an opportunity you couldn't have predicted. These aren't coincidences. You start to see them as evidence of a deeper intelligence at play. But this awareness also comes with responsibility. When you're awake, you can no longer move through life unconsciously. Every thought, every choice, every action carries weight because you understand that you're not just reacting to life, you're shaping it. This doesn't mean you have to be perfect. It means you have to be intentional. Think about the energy you bring into every situation. When you walk into a room, are you adding peace or tension? When you speak to someone, are you lifting them up or dragging them down? When you face a challenge, are you acting from fear or trust? These aren't small questions. They define the reality you're creating. And then there's the matter of purpose. Awakening brings with it a deep sense that you're here for a reason. But this reason isn't about achieving something external. It's not about success, recognition, or even helping others in the way you might expect. Your purpose is to fully be yourself, to express the unique energy that only you can bring into this world. For some, this might look like creating art or building something tangible. For others, it might be about teaching healing or simply holding space for those around them. Purpose doesn't have to be grand or glamorous. It just has to be authentic. And the more you align with that authenticity, the more life seems to flow. But let's be clear, awakening doesn't mean life becomes easy. You'll still face challenges, setbacks, and moments of doubt. The difference is, these moments no longer define you. You stop seeing them as problems and start seeing them as opportunities to grow. Every obstacle becomes a mirror, showing you where you're still holding on to fear, resistance, or old programming. For example, let's say you're faced with a situation that triggers anger or frustration. In the past, you might have reacted without thinking, blaming the situation or the person involved. But now, you pause. You notice the emotion rising, and instead of being consumed by it, you ask yourself, what is this showing me? What part of me still feels threatened or unseen? This is the power of living in the awakened state. You stop reacting to life and start responding to it with awareness. And this awareness extends to your relationships. When you're awake, you stop needing people to complete you or make you happy. You understand that no one can give you what you're not already giving yourself. This doesn't mean you don't value connection. In fact, your relationships become deeper and more meaningful because they're built on truth, not need. But not everyone in your life will understand the changes you're going through. Some people will resist your growth because it forces them to confront their own limitations. Others might drift away because they no longer resonate with your energy. This isn't a failure. It's a natural part of the process. The people who are meant to walk with you will find you, and when they do, the connection will feel effortless, as if you've known them forever. These are the relationships that nourish your soul, that challenge you to grow, that remind you of the infinite nature of love. And speaking of love, let's talk about how awakening transforms the way you see the world. You start to notice beauty in places you never noticed before, in the way the sunlight filters through the trees, in the laughter of a child, in the stillness of a quiet moment. Life itself becomes sacred, not because it's perfect, but because you've stopped looking for perfection. This doesn't mean you ignore the pain and suffering in the world. If anything, you become more aware of it. But instead of feeling overwhelmed or powerless, you begin to see how your energy can make a difference. You realize that every act of kindness, every moment of compassion, every step you take in alignment with your truth has a ripple effect. And this ripple effect isn't limited to the people around you. It extends to the collective consciousness. When you choose love over fear, you're not just healing yourself, you're contributing to the healing of the whole. This is the power of the awakened state. It's not about escaping the world, it's about transforming it from within. But let's address something that often gets misunderstood. Awakening isn't a destination. It's not a place you arrive at and stay forever. It's a process, a constant unfolding. There will be moments when you feel deeply connected and moments when you feel lost, moments when you're filled with clarity and moments when doubt creeps in. This is normal. The awakened state isn't about avoiding the ups and downs of life. It's about moving through them with awareness. It's about embracing the full spectrum of the human experience without losing touch with the infinite self. So what does it mean to live as a chosen one? It means living with intention, with authenticity, with love. It means choosing truth over comfort, growth over stagnation, freedom over fear. It means showing up fully for yourself and for the world, not because you have to, but because you want to. And here's the most important part: being a chosen one doesn't mean you're special or better than anyone else. It simply means you've remembered what everyone else has forgotten, that we are all connected, that we are all creators, that we are all infinite. The real question isn't whether you're chosen. It's what you're going to do with that knowledge. Will you let it inspire you to create, to heal, to love? Or will you keep waiting for permission to step into your power? Because the truth is, the only thing holding you back is the belief that you're not ready. But you are. You always have been. The awakened state isn't something you earn. It's something you allow. So here you are, standing at the edge of everything you've ever known, with the infinite stretching out before you. What happens next is entirely up to you.